first meeting of the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We will start with the roll call, please.
Nelson.
Present.
Gingell.
Here.
Gershenson. Here. Loobs. Here. Taub.
Here.
Quarles.
Here. Thank you. Previous minutes. I need a motion for the previous minutes.
Human Resources Committee.
Pardon me?
It's a Human Resources Committee minutes from November 28th.
It's the Human Resource Committee minutes from November 28th, 2018. Commissioner Taub,
I'm sorry?
you're moving it?
Yes.
Okay. Moved by and supported by Commissioner Gershenson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Approval of the agenda for today. Moved by Commissioner Gershenson, second by Commissioner Taub. Any opposes? Motion carried. Public comment? From the public? Seeing none? Then we will move forward. We'll move forward with the regular agenda.
Thanks.
Which is the Clerk Register of Deeds, Election Division, Board of Committee Canvassers Compensation. Commissioner Gershenson? Is there a second? No. The top, second. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for taking this up. I guess let me first explain why the timing of it. And that is in lame duck, the legislature passed a bill, and it was signed by the governor, that changes how the Board of Canvassers are to be paid. For decades, it was a three-tiered system depending on population, and now it has correctly, I'll say, put the control into the counties, to each individual county. And the reason why we need this taken up now is because we have a personnel appeal board election February 6th. It's 8th, sorry, 8th. And it's a contested election. Well, so the Board of Canvassers do need to come in and canvass that election. And if we don't act right now, it would default to $35 a day for their pay. So that's why this is moving now. And what the change in law says that the county commissioners decide with input from the county clerk. So this is input from my office. We thought that going to an hourly fee would be the most equitable and financially sound. We have times where they come in for 1 hour. We have days that, like when we did the presidential recount of 2016, they were working like a 14-hour day. So, you know, I don't think $35 for 14 hours is fair. I don't think that's what anyone should get in a day. So anyways, this is what we proposed. $15 for the canvassers that you elect, the 4 that you elect, and then $13 for any assistance. $13.
Thank you. Any discussion? Commissioner Taub?
Yes, I'm just trying to find out if it was the same on our, I have an amendment anyhow, okay? Writing, except there's one small thing that I think may be a correction on it. So shall I pass it out now?
Are you amending your amendment? Is that,
Well, first let me explain. I do believe that there should be a mileage rate as well. And every single position, every single volunteer and/or committees that we have on this board, there are mileage is considered as well. We have a lot of people who devote their time to this county, so I have suggested that it reads, whereas the county clerk is.
excuse me, Commissioner.
Yes.
You're explaining your amendment. You moved it. Anyone second it? Commissioner Gish. Angela, second.
And so I have two things here. The first is whereas, it would be whereas the county clerk is recommending a compensation package of $15 per hour plus mileage for board members and $13 an hour plus mileage for assistants. And then the other part of it is, and whereas this hourly rate replaces a per diem, you strike the word mileage. I don't have the ability to do it on my computer, and meal allowance previously paid to the board members. So, where it should read, whereas this hourly rate replaces a per diem and meal allowance previously paid to the board members. So I do believe that it is an important thing. This is a large county. Some people drive many, many, many miles to get here, and I think it's important that we include that along with the $15.
Can I ask questions about that? I mean, are you suggesting every time they come here, or are you suggesting, because, just so I have an understanding, and you know, we analyze the impact to my budget, obviously,
I haven't gotten to that part.
before we, okay, well, when we came up with this amount, but understand that the canvassers come in and they work side by side with my staff. My staff is not getting paid to drive here to work every day. So, is it, if we're going off-site, and that is a typical, repayment, I guess that's the word, compensation for someone if, you know, you work here, but then we are doing something off-site, if we have to go to a training in another county or something, we get mileage, that's normal. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about every day that they drive here, they get mileage reimbursed?
Yes, if you're on jury duty upstairs, you get paid, plus you get mileage. If you serve 6 days or 10 days or 3 weeks, you get paid every time you drive out here. That's how it works.
This is pretty different from jury
Clerk,
duty.
do you have anything else that you want to add?
Well, this is different from jury duty. I mean, jury duty is not something that you're, I mean, they're just two completely different things. You're not getting a swipe badge to come into this building. It's a different, you're not a direct employee, you're a contracted employee, so you have access to come into this building. They can come in on Saturdays, the canvassers. It's just a different thing. And again, they're working side by side with my staff, who come in every day, are not getting paid to drive here. And again, I didn't do the fiscal analysis to see what impact that would have on my budget.
And the other thing that we're talking about, this is part of the merit rules that this will affect, as opposed to what jury duty rules and jury duty coverages. Commissioner Gish.
I just have a question, but the Board of Canvassers we're talking about, how, are they classified as county employees? Right, so they're actually appointed members of a body that the Board of Commissioner appoints, right?
You elect them,
We elect them.
you elect them.
So they're not classified as part-time employees, full-time employees, or county employees at all?
No, I mean, I would call it like a contracted, even though you elect them, they operate as a contracted employee, so to speak, because as I said, they have badges, they have access to this building. They
So
can
they
come
get-
in on a Saturday, they have a key to the room, and I mean, they're not strangers to the,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They get a key to a door that we can't go into when they're canvassing.
And they receive a 1099 for their compensation at the end of the year as if they were a contract employee.
okay, Madam Chair. So I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to understand, because I don't believe they're employees, therefore the merit rules that apply to employees, I'm not certain personally that they apply to this Board of Canvassers, and my gut would tell me no.
Well, the merit, they're actually mentioned in the merit rules.
This is in section 10,
Yeah, so section 10A.5.19, canvass of a vote, the second sentence says, votes shall be canvassed by the county board of canvassers, who shall be paid their regular per diem and mileage for their services.
That's,
Which is now, which was what,
The law said, or what the,
which is what the law
Previously
previously was,
said,
but
right.
now the law has been changed.
right, so I guess what I'm saying is that sentence doesn't mean a lot to me.
Right.
To be honest. And the other thing I'm trying to say is, so I'm wanting to do what's right here and what's fair. And if they're not employees, I wouldn't compare them to people that drive here every day and don't get mileage. I get the argument, but I see a difference there. And then the other question is just from an IRS regulation standpoint, if they're not classified as employees and they are required to commute to complete their function that we're appointing them to complete, is there something there that would require us to pay mileage? I don't know, but I know in other business factions that that's something that we put in place because the IRS regulations. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
And I'll come to you. My question would be, and it probably should be directed to HR, as if an appointee or an employee is receiving compensation, or certainly if they receive a 1099, how, from the HR perspective, are they looked at?
Well, we did talk about this before this item came, because we had the same conversation. If they're paid on a per diem, and that's where some confusion, because of the way the resolution's written, it references an hourly rate, but we've been told by the clerk's office that they will be paid on a per diem. And so they will be issued a 1099. However, there's a broader discussion from the IRS about changing the law, or perhaps enforcing that any per diem paid appointee would have to be treated as an employee and would have to receive a form in the future. That has not occurred yet, but that change is likely to come. And so this is going to become an issue for all of your appointeds who are paid per diems, not just these.
Okay, so that's the direction that the future is moving in?
That's what it looks like based on everything we've been reading through the Government Finance Officers Association publication, something we've been monitoring.
And I know it's not in place today, but from your best guess, when do you think that would occur?
This one concerns me a little bit, and I'm not sure how it fluctuates, and I'm gonna be honest, this whole new process that the board has put in place has caused some difficulty with us on this issue, because in the past, we would have had a little bit more time to research this, and we would have attached a fiscal note, and we would have pointed out officially in the fiscal note our concerns about this, or things to consider. We would have addressed what the current budget is or not. This whole mileage thing probably wouldn't have come up, so I can't address that. We would have deferred to the clerk about whether her budget would have reflected the mileage. I am concerned in that this per diem is different from other per diems. The other per diems are a flat rate no matter how many hours you work. I'm not sure, it sounds like this per diem is gonna fluctuate depending on how many hours, is that right? And so, will the IRS come in and do a test and say, this is not a per diem, because it's not a per day amount, it's really an hourly amount, and therefore these should be treated as employees? So, we have the risk of per diem appointeds being treated as employees to begin with, but I think this is going to be scrutinized maybe a little differently because it is based on the hours worked. And so, will the IRS come and say, this is, substance over form, so the form might say it's a per diem, but the substance might be that they're getting paid based on the number of hours they work, so therefore they're an employee. I don't know that. I guess we'll see if they come in and question it, and then we'll know. If we had more time, we could have probably asked the IRS for clarification on that, but we don't have the time to do that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gerst is on.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
So, you mentioned that you have looked at your budget and that your budget covers this change.
Yes, this would not have a negative impact on my budget. I would not have to amend.
But you have not figured in how mileage would impact your budget.
Correct, and I don't know if also Commissioner Taub is suggesting that also the assistants would get mileage? And if I don't know if that is, since I didn't get a copy of your amendment, I don't know if you're saying it's just the Board of Canvassers, if you're also saying the assistants, and then, again, you're treating two people differently if you're not including assistants, and if you are including assistants, now we're talking,
Is assistant staff?
no, assistants are other,
How many total are there?
yeah, not employees, those are people who, we don't need them every election, but for bigger elections, we'll bring in extra people, people who've been doing this for years, or people who were former clerks, things like that, who have, you know, the knowledge, they come in and they help, because the four, if it's such a big election, the four canvassers and my staff, like, it's too much for us to all do, that we need more people to come in.
And then, if we don't act today, the old law, the $35 a day, that for the February election, you're concerned
If
about?
we don't act, if this isn't passed now, then yes, it's not the law, it's the county policy that would go into effect, that would, you know, be
Which is
the
the
fallback, which is
$35
$35 a day.
A day.
It's an old
No-
resolution from
and mileage
1975.
And lunch.
No, no. It's an old resolution from 1975 that says that if there is no established compensation in state law or any other county resolution, then it's a per diem of $35 is hereby established. So that's what this board would receive.
Amendment says, that it would strike
That's all gone from statute. That was all, Oakland was in a tier all by itself. The other, like example, Wayne County, those canvassers did not receive mileage. Those canvassers did not receive meal allowance. They received $25 a day, period. That's it. That's all the canvassers in Wayne County received. In Macomb County, they received $80 a day. They did not receive meal allowance, but they did receive mileage. They were in a different tier.
$80 a day, no matter how many hours?
No matter how many hours. I mean, it was a very odd tiered structure. So when we looked at establishing this hourly rate, Clerk Brown and I looked at a total compensation. You know, what did we feel was appropriate? And that's how we arrived at the $15 an hour. So we factored in, you know, what they were receiving, the work they're performing, the number of hours they're working roughly. And that's how we arrived at a total compensation per hour at $15 and $13.
And also what what people get paid in the county hourly, what's the range? So we didn't go with the lowest of what people get paid hourly in the county, because these are people who have some knowledge and, you know, that sort of thing. So we went off of that as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me, Commissioner Tom, followed by Commissioner Genzel.
So, how many hours a year approximately, or do these people work?
It varies from year to year. Obviously, even years, it's more than odd years, just because of the amount of elections and how big the elections are. November, so just for the past November, we took the full 2 weeks that we have. So by law, it can't be more than 2 weeks. We have to finish. We have to finish 2 weeks after the election. So, with the canvas. So it varies. And again, then you think about 16 and the presidential recount, which of course nobody knew that was gonna happen, and we never know when we're gonna have a recount. Those were grueling days. That was what, 5 days, I think, that we had in Oakland County of doing that. So, I mean, those were,
So nobody's working over 200 hours?
Oh, I wouldn't see it exceeding 8 weeks in any given year.
Okay. Now, do you withhold? Are you gonna be withholding from this? You don't withhold?
they're 1099.
Yeah, they're 1099.
Okay, so you
We don't
Don't
withhold.
withhold.
They
okay.
1099.
And this affects how many people? 4 people, basically?
The canvasser, we have 4 canvassers, and then assistants, again, and when I go back to 2016, we hired 150 people. That was unusual, but we hired 150 people, so that was.
Normally, how many assistants?
Yeah, we supplement the canvasser's normal day-to-day operation with staff from our office. The only time we use assistants are for large recounts.
Okay, so it's basically 4 people, for the most part, some odds and ends here and there. We don't have to be right in it anymore. All right, so we're just talking about 4 people getting mileage, that's all it amounts to.
Well, no, my question though to you, Commissioner, was if you're including the mileage for assistance.
I did in this, but I'd be more than happy to take it out. I don't think that's necessary. But I do believe that the people who are coming full-time should all.
Commissioner Genjo.
Yeah, I don't, I was just trying to do some math just to get a rough idea of cost from the mileage perspective. And, you know, the IRS rate is 58 cents per mile for 2019. I was just doing some quick math. If on average a round trip is 50 miles, that's probably high, but if it is, you're talking $29 in mileage per person per trip. If you have 4 people, I mean, you're talking $100 every time there's a meeting. If there's 40 meetings, you're talking $4,000, right? It's probably not 40 meetings.
That line item is $4,000.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you is the mileage piece is probably hundreds of dollars in reality.
Well, when we have, again, so, I mean, I don't wanna literally nickel and dime this, but you're talking 2 weeks for sure, and even year November. And probably almost 2 weeks in even year August. That's usually where we have recounts too, is in August.
So I would take, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, and again, I mean, and this is what we have in elections, is that the difference between even years and odd years too.
Yeah.
And I know with our budgets, and, I mean, there's so many line items in my budget that differ from year to year, but, you know, if we're talking, month, it's $3,000 maybe just in that, right?
Well, if it's 2 weeks, that'd be 14 times, right?
For 28 days, well,
So it'd be 10 times, so it'd be 5
well, they
times.
usually come in, they like to come in on the weekend too. We
Okay,
come
so
in on
14
Saturdays.
times, right? 14 times 4, if it's just the Board of Canvassers,
That's November, then
is
there's also August.
56 times, my calculation was $29, $1,600. So, I mean, we can vote this up or down, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to make the point that it's not tens of thousands of dollars in mileage. It's probably
No,
a
it's not.
couple grand or less.
Absolutely, it's not, but again, it's a $4,000 line item, so, you were just, with your calculator, figuring out for just November, you weren't including August, you weren't including May. So, you know, I'm very conscientious of my budget, I like to stay within my budget, I think every year I've stayed actually under my budget, and, I'm trying to be fiscally responsible. So, you know, it's you guys that decide with my input, and, you know.
May I respond?
Yes, we,
Yeah, I think we all want to be fiscally responsible. I just don't want to get an issue with the IRS on not paying people mileage that should be paid mileage. And this allows us to do that, or have time to check it, right? And we at least authorize it so that if it's necessary, it's already been to the board. But I'm fine with however we want to go forward, Madam Chair.
Commissioner, Norfolk? Okay. So we'll be on the amendment. And I just want to make sure I'm getting your amendment correct, Commissioner Tom. The first whereas is whereas the county clerk is recommending a correction compensation package of $15 per hour plus mileage for the board member and $13 an hour plus mileage for an assistant.
There should be a third part of it that says, now therefore be it resolved that the Oakland County Board of Commissioners authorizes total compensation of $15 per hour plus mileage for board members and $13 an hour for assistance in compliance with Public Act 614.
Okay, now, when you said about the assistance, are you still putting the mileage in there for assistance?
Yes.
Okay, although our current mayor assistant does not have mileage for assistance?
Well, it does not, but it's gonna have to be amended anyhow, because it's not correct now. You're gonna have to also amend, that as well, because regardless, so yeah, go ahead and do it, because it's not correct. What we're doing here is not in the current, system. And I will also like to add one other thing. There are other,
We're in the middle, go ahead.
there are other, boards that we appoint that get 1099s. this is not unusual.
We have the amendment on the table to be voted on. We'll do a roll call.
Can we clarify the now therefore one more time?
Yes. No, let's like the makers restate the now therefore.
It should be now therefore be it resolved that the Oakland County Board of Commissioners authorizes a total compensation of $15 per hour plus mileage for board members and $13 an hour plus mileage for assistants in compliance with Public Act 614.
Okay?
Yeah, I was just looking for clarification. The first time it was read was no mileage for assistance. And assistance could be 150 people.
Right,
That's unusual, but it happened, so,
So
yeah.
would you like to take that out?
Are you finished?
I would like to take out mileage for assistance.
Okay, good.
Make an amendment to the amendment.
It's a motion on the amendment?
Yeah, I guess we did. So,
She needs a, so did, you move to make the motion to amend the amendment?
That's what's needed, yeah.
And I'll support that.
and it's moved by, and supported by Tom.
The,
To take out mileage.
Yeah, take out the mouth. So now it would read.
there you go.
Yeah. Now, whereas the county clerk is recommending a compensation package of $15 per hour plus mileage for board members and $13 an hour for assistants. Now therefore be it resolved that Oakland, well, I'm trying to follow along
You
with.
got it. Oakland County Board of Commissioners.
Oh. Now therefore be it that Oakland County Board of Commissioners authorize total compensation of $15 per hour
Plus mileage.
plus mileage for board members and $13 an hour for assistants in compliance with Public Act 614. Please call it.
So,
No, it was
Lubes and top.
Lubes. She moved it and Tom
okay.
seconded it.
We can do a,
Roll call.
okay. Roll call on the amendment to the amendment. Gingell,
Yes.
Gershenson,
No.
Lubes,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Quarles.
Yes. Okay, now we have we're going back to the amendment, which reads,
Well, they just fixed it. It's everything now, but.
whereas the county clerk is recommending a compensation package of $15 per hour plus mileage for the board members and $13 an hour for assistants. Now therefore be it resolved that Oakland County Board of Commissioners authorize total compensation of $15 per hour plus mileage for the board members and $13 an hour for assistance in compliance with Public Act 614. Roll call?
Plus mileage for assistants.
No,
on the amendment?
no, that was taken out.
Yep,
Okay.
you're good. Yep.
All right, Gingell,
Yes.
Gershenson,
No.
Lubes, Taub,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Quarles.
Yes.
5 days and 1 day.
All right, motion carries.
Now you have to approve.
Now, back to the resolution as amended.
Yep.
Would you please do the roll call?
Okay. Nelson, as amended.
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Quarles.
Yes. Motion carried. Is there any further business to come before the committee? If not, without objection, I declare the meeting adjourned.
All right.